My name is Olivia Harrison, and I'm 37 years old. 20 years ago, my parents called me a disgrace and threw me out like trash when I was 17 and pregnant. Today, they stood in the marble lobby of Springfield Memorial Hospital, demanding to meet their grandson, the chief of cardiac surgery they'd seen on the news. My mother clutched her Hermes Birkin like armor, while my father checked his Patek Philippe, both dressed to impress the son of the daughter they'd erased. But they had no idea what was waiting for them in the will of the woman who saved me when they wouldn't. Before we begin, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Here's what happened when karma finally came to collect. Let me take you back to that October night in 2004. I stood in my parents' living room, the one with the imported Italian marble and the chandelier that cost more than most people's cars, holding a positive pregnancy test in my trembling hand. "You're lying," my mother said first, her voice sharp as winter ice. No daughter of mine would be so common. But the second test confirmed it. And the third. My father didn't yell. That would have been beneath him. Instead, he walked to my room with measured steps and returned with my suitcase, the one they'd bought for my supposed college tours. He set it by the front door with clinical precision. "You have 10 minutes," he said, adjusting his Yale class ring. "Take what fits. Leave your house keys on the table." "Dad, please. You're not our daughter anymore." He flipped the family portrait on the mantel face down, the one where we all wore matching white shirts and fake smiles. "Our daughter wouldn't spread her legs for some boy and destroy everything we've built." My mother stood by the grandfather clock, examining her manicure. "Don't call us. Don't come back. We'll tell everyone you're studying abroad." Owen, the boy who'd promised me forever? He'd already been accepted to Stanford. His parents had lawyers. His future mattered more than mine, or our babies. He'd blocked my number the day I told him. 10 minutes. That's all the time they gave me to pack up 17 years of being their daughter. I grabbed clothes, my grandmother's necklace they'd forgotten about, and the $247 from my jewelry box. The lock clicked behind me like a judge's gavel. Final, irreversible. I slept in Riverside Park that night, under the gazebo where Owen first kissed me. 3 nights later, I woke to someone gently shaking my shoulder. Not a cop or a creep. A woman in her 70s wearing a cashmere coat and genuine concern. "Child, you're going to freeze to death out here." Elena Rossi had been walking her ancient poodle at dawn, a routine she'd kept since her husband died. She saw me curled on that park bench, my suitcase as a pillow, and something in her broke, or maybe something healed. "I'm fine," I lied through chattering teeth. "No, you're not." She studied my face, then my belly. Even at barely 2 months, she knew. "How far along?" When I started crying, really crying, not the silent tears I'd rationed for 3 days, she sat right there on that cold bench and held me like I mattered. "Come," she said finally. "Pierre and I need company for breakfast." Her car smelled like lavender and leather. The heated seats felt like heaven. She drove us to West Side, to a house that sprawled across a lot the size of a small park. 8 bedrooms for 1 widow and 1 geriatric poodle. "I lost my daughter," she said simply as she led me inside. "Car accident 5 years ago. She was pregnant too." The room she showed me had already been prepared, not for me specifically, but for someone. A Pottery Barn crib sat assembled in the corner. The closet held maternity clothes with tags still on. "This is yours now," she said. "No questions, no conditions. Everyone deserves a second chance." "Why?" I whispered. She touched a photo on the dresser, a young woman with Elena's eyes and smile. "Because Sophia would have wanted me to." That night, I slept in a bed for the first time in 72 hours. Pierre curled up at my feet like a guardian. Elena didn't just give me shelter, she gave me a future. While my parents told their country club friends I was studying in Switzerland, I was learning to breathe again in a nursery decorated with stars. Sigurd arrived during a February blizzard, screaming and perfect. Elena held my hand through 18 hours of labor, whispering strength when I had none left. She cut the cord when I asked her to. She was the first to hold him after me. "He's brilliant," she declared, though he was only minutes old. "I can see it in his eyes." She wasn't wrong. Sigurd walked at 9 months, read at 3, and tested into gifted programs before kindergarten. While I took night classes for my GED, then community college courses online, he absorbed knowledge like other kids absorbed cartoons. Elena owned 3 restaurants: Rossi's downtown, the bistro on 5th, and the cafe near the university. She started me as a hostess, then taught me inventory, scheduling, profit margins. "You're not just working here," she said. "You're learning to run an empire." When Sigurd was 7, he performed surgery on his teddy bear with actual sutures he'd practiced from YouTube videos. At 10, he was reading my anatomy textbooks. At 16, Harvard Medical School accepted him early admission. That same year, Lance Mitchell walked into Rossi's. He was updating Elena's will. She'd insisted on adding new provisions every year since taking us in. Tall, steady, with kind eyes and terrible jokes, he made me laugh for the first time in years. "Your son's remarkable," he said over coffee that turned into dinner. "His grandmother deserves the credit." "I wasn't talking about Elena," he smiled, though she mentioned something interesting about her will, something about protecting the family you choose. Even then, Elena was planning ahead. Everything changed when the Springfield Gazette ran the headline, "20-year-old surgeon becomes youngest department chief in state history." Sigurd's photo covered half the front page, my son in surgical scrubs, standing before the cardiac wing he'd already revolutionized. The article mentioned his full name: Dr. Sigurd Harrison, MD, PhD. My maiden name. The name my parents thought they'd buried. Within hours, the story went viral. "Prodigy doctor saves 3 lives in one day." "Gen Z surgeon revolutionizes heart surgery." The real-life Doogie Howser. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't check the voicemail. Olivia. My mother's voice. After 2 decades of silence. "We need to discuss our grandson." Our grandson. Not your son. Not Sigurd. Our grandson, like he was property they'd suddenly remembered they'd misplaced. The emails started next, sent to my restaurant's public address. Professional. Cold. "Dear Olivia, we hope this message finds you well. Recent news has come to our attention regarding Sigurd's remarkable achievements. As his grandparents, we feel it's time to reconnect." They signed it from their corporate email. Harrison Industries, the company they'd protected by discarding me. Lance found me crying in my office. Not from sadness, but from rage. "They want him now that he's successful," I said. 20 years of nothing, and now they want to claim him? What do you want to do? Make them disappear again. He pulled me close. "We can do that. But first, let me check something in Elena's papers." She mentioned provisions for this exact situation. That night, Sigurd worked a 16-hour shift, saving 2 lives. He had no idea his grandparents existed, let alone that they were circling like vultures who'd spotted gold. They started small. A reservation at Rossi's under a fake name, sitting in my section, watching me work. I recognized my mother's emerald ring before her face. She'd aged poorly, Botox fighting a losing battle with bitterness. "Good evening, I'm Olivia, I'll be—" "We know who you are." My father set down his menu like a verdict. "We need to discuss Sigurd. You need to leave." They didn't. Instead, packages arrived at the hospital: a Rolex Submariner for Sigurd, a Mont Blanc pen set, a first edition Grey's Anatomy worth thousands. Each gift card signed, "Your loving grandparents." Sigurd brought them home confused. "Mom, someone keeps sending me expensive things. Should I be worried?" "Return them," I said. "All of them." Lance intercepted their next move: a formal letter requesting grandparent visitation rights. He laughed, actually laughed, as he read it to me. "They cite established family bonds," he said. "Bonds they severed with this." He pulled out a photocopy, the document they'd signed 20 years ago, relinquishing all parental rights and responsibilities. They didn't just kick you out, Olivia. They legally disowned you and any children you might have. But they kept pushing. They hired a private investigator who followed Sigurd's routine. They contacted the hospital board, introducing themselves as Dr. Harrison's grandparents, trying to get invited to fundraisers. The final straw came when my mother approached Sigurd directly at a coffee shop near the hospital. "You look just like your grandfather," she said, blocking his path. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "I'm your grandmother, sweetheart. Your mother has kept us apart, but—" Sigurd called me immediately. "Mom, some woman claiming to be my grandmother just ambushed me. Should I call security?" "Yes," I said. "Always." The call came at 2 a.m. because Owen always had terrible timing. "Liv, it's me. Please don't hang up." 20 years, and he still thought "it's me" would mean something. "What do you want, Owen?" "I saw the news about Sigurd. He's incredible. Our son. Now he was our son. When I was 17 and terrified, Sigurd was my problem. Now that he was saving lives and making headlines, Owen remembered his DNA contribution. "He doesn't know you exist," I said. "Let's keep it that way." "That's not fair. I was 18, Liv. My parents threatened to—" "To what? Disown you? Kick you out? Make you sleep in parks while pregnant?" Silence. "That's what I thought. I'm divorced now. My startup failed. I've lost everything." His voice cracked. "I just want to know him. He's my blood." "Blood? You blocked my number when I needed you most." "Your parents contacted me." The admission hung between us like a noose. "They think if I'm involved, you'll be more receptive to reconciliation. They're offering to help me financially if I can convince you." I hung up. Then I called Lance. "They're coordinating," I told him. "My parents and Owen. They're actually planning this together." "Good," he said, which surprised me. "Conspiracy leaves evidence. Forward me everything, calls, emails, texts." Elena was very specific about documentation. The next morning, Owen sent a long email about his father's rights. He CC'd my parents. At the bottom, almost hidden in the signature, was the line that confirmed everything. Consultant, Harrison Industries Family Relations. They'd actually hired him. My parents hired the man who abandoned me to manipulate me into letting them near Sigurd. Elena had been right about everything. Family isn't blood, it's choice. And some choices, once made, can't be undone. If you've ever had to stand up against family members who only want you when you're successful, please leave a like to support others fighting for healthy boundaries. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next part will show you what happens when truth meets spotlight. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I genuinely want to know if this story reaches others who understand that DNA doesn't equal loyalty. Now let's see what happened when my parents decided to make their demands public. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Sigurd was 8 hours into a complex pediatric heart surgery when my parents walked into Springfield Memorial's VIP lobby. "We're here to see our grandson, Dr. Harrison," my mother announced to reception, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We're his grandparents, the Harrisons of Harrison Industries." The receptionist called security instead of Sigurd, but my parents had come prepared. "This is ridiculous," my father boomed, his voice echoing off the marble walls. "We donate millions to this hospital. Our grandson is chief of surgery. We demand to see him." Visitors stopped to stare. Doctors whispered. Someone started recording on their phone. My mother, ever the performer, pulled out a handkerchief. Not tissues, but an actual monogrammed handkerchief. 20 years we've been kept from him," she wailed. "We just want to meet our only grandchild." Security arrived as I did, Lance beside me. "Ma'am, sir, Dr. Harrison is in surgery." "Then we'll wait," my father declared, planting himself on a leather bench like he owned it. Which, given the Harrison Industries plaques on the walls, he probably thought he did. The head of security looked at me. Mrs. Mitchell, how would you like us to handle this? My mother's tears stopped instantly. Mitchell? You remarried? You gave our grandson another man's name? He never had your name, I said quietly. You made sure of that when you signed him away. The gathering crowd murmured. My father's face went purple. How dare you? The OR doors opened. Sigurd emerged, still in surgical scrubs, the baby he'd just saved being wheeled to recovery. He looked at the scene. Security, strangers with phones out, two well-dressed elderly people causing chaos. Then at me. Are these the people who've been stalking me? Yes, I said. Then I want them removed. He didn't even look at them. Now. My parents didn't leave. Instead, they called Channel 7 from the hospital parking lot. Within an hour, news vans surrounded the main entrance. My mother had changed into a St. John's suit. She'd brought costume changes for her ambush. My father stood beside her, the grieving grandfather in his Harvard tie. We're heartbroken, my mother told reporter Jennifer Chen. 20 years ago, there was a misunderstanding. We were in shock about our teenage daughter's pregnancy. We reacted poorly. But we've been trying to reconnect, to make amends, and we're being denied access to our only grandchild. She dabbed her eyes with that same monogrammed handkerchief, careful not to smudge her makeup. Dr. Harrison is a medical pioneer, the reporter prompted. You must be proud. Incredibly proud, my father said, though he'd never seen Sigurd save a life, hold a patient's hand, or stay awake for 30 hours to perfect a procedure. The Harrison family has always valued excellence. It's in his blood. In his blood. The blood they'd rejected when it was growing inside me. What would you say to your daughter now? Jennifer asked. My mother looked directly at the camera. Olivia, sweetheart, we forgive you. We just want our family back together. Please don't punish Sigurd for our mistakes. They forgive me. They forgive me. The segment aired at 6. By 7, it had 50,000 views on their Facebook page, the one my mother ran like a lifestyle blog. The comments poured in. Family is everything. Let them see their grandson. Why so cruel, Olivia? Lance shut his laptop. They just made a critical error. Going public? No, claiming they forgive you. That's admission of wrongdoing. And we have the documents that show exactly what they did wrong. The hospital's chief administrator called me in for a friendly chat the next morning. Olivia, this situation is becoming complicated, Dr. Morrison said, fidgeting with his Mont Blanc pen. The Harrisons have donated $12 million over the years. The board is concerned. Concerned about what? The optics. Perhaps one supervised meeting would resolve everything? Would you meet with people who threw you away like garbage? He shifted uncomfortably. It's not my decision to make, but Sigurd's position. Are you threatening my son's job? No, just considering all angles. At Rossi's, customers suddenly had opinions. Family is complicated, one regular told me while I refilled her wine. But forgiveness is divine, don't you think? Even my staff whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. 20 years is a long time to hold a grudge. A grudge, like being disowned while pregnant, was equivalent to a forgotten birthday. Sigurd came home exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. Mom, I had 3 surgeries delayed today because reporters kept trying to get into the OR wing. I'm sorry, baby. I'll fix this. It's not your fault. He collapsed on the couch. But maybe if we just met with them once. No. I could tell them to leave us alone in person. Sigurd, they signed papers stating you don't exist to them, legally. He was quiet for a moment. Can I see these papers? Lance had been waiting for this. He pulled out the folder he'd been carrying for days, ready for when Sigurd would ask. This is what they signed, Lance said. The day they kicked your mother out. Sigurd read slowly, his surgeon's hands steady despite the words that should have shaken anyone. October 15th, 2004, Sigurd read aloud. We, Robert and Margaret Harrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Olivia Harrison and any children born or unborn. His voice stayed clinical, like he was reading a patient chart, but his knuckles were white. They signed this while you were pregnant with me? Yes. And this line, we acknowledge no financial, emotional, or legal obligations. They wrote that? Their lawyer did. They signed it. He set the paper down carefully, the way he handled scalpels. Tell me everything, Mom. From the beginning. So I did. The 10 minutes. The suitcase. The park bench. Owen vanishing. Everything I'd protected him from for 20 years spilled out in my kitchen while Lance held my hand. Owen Blake is my biological father? Yes. The tech entrepreneur who just declared bankruptcy? I stared at him. You knew. I'm not stupid, Mom. I can use Google. Owen Blake, Stanford graduate, dated Olivia Harrison in high school. He pulled out his phone, showing Owen's LinkedIn. He's been viewing my profile weekly for 6 months. My brilliant, brilliant boy. Why didn't you say anything? Because you didn't. I figured when you were ready, you'd tell me. He looked at the papers again. So Grandma Elena was your real grandmother, the only one who wanted you. She left me something, didn't she? In her will. That's why Lance keeps checking documents. Lance nodded. She left you everything, with conditions. Your biological grandparents can't touch a penny if they abandoned you. How much? 15 million, plus the restaurants. Sigurd laughed. Actually laughed. They're fighting this hard for money they already lost? They don't know they've lost it yet, Lance said. But they're about to. They chose Bernardino's, the most pretentious restaurant in Springfield, all white tablecloths and waiters who judged your wine pronunciation. Thank you for coming, my mother said, as if she'd won something by getting me here. My father pushed a leather folder across the table before our water arrived. Let's skip the pleasantries. Inside, a contract. Harrison Industries letterhead, corporate seal, the works. $5 million, he said. Placed in trust for Sigurd immediately. Another 5 when he joins the board. All we ask is a public reconciliation, a family photo for the announcement. You want to buy us? We want to invest in our legacy, my mother corrected, adjusting her pearls. Sigurd is a Harrison. He should benefit from that name. The name you took from me? Which we're offering to restore. The IPO launches next month. Harrison Industries, 3 generations of excellence tests well with focus groups. Focus groups. They'd focus grouped our reconciliation. And Owen? I asked. My father's jaw tightened. Mr. Blake is a separate matter. Is he? Because he told me you're paying him as a consultant. My mother's mask slipped for just a second. That's a misunderstanding. Lance had been quiet until now. Is it? Because we have emails suggesting otherwise. Something about a finder's fee? You've been monitoring our communications? My father stood. That's illegal. No, Owen forwarded them to Olivia. CC'd, actually. He's not very bright. They exchanged a look, the same one they'd shared when deciding my fate 20 years ago. The offer stands, my father said, tossing $300 bills on the table. But not for long. As they left, my mother turned. That boy deserves to know his real family. He does, I said. That's why he'll never know you. Lance worked late that night, laptop open, documents spread across our dining table like evidence in a crime scene, which essentially they were. Olivia, come look at this. The email chain went back 3 months, before the first news article about Sigurd. My parents had been planning this. From Robert Harrison at Harrison Industries, com, to Owen Blake 2004, gmail.com. Subject, consultation agreement. Mr. Blake, per our discussion, you'll receive 10% of any assets recovered from the reconciliation with our daughter. Your role, establish paternal connection with SH, leverage for maternal cooperation. They're calling my son assets recovered, I said. Keep reading. Owen's response made me sick. Happy to help. Olivia always was emotional. If I push the right buttons about missed father-son moments, she'll cave. Suggest we coordinate pressure. You from grandparent angle, me from father's rights. $500K upfront seems reasonable for my involvement. He's selling access to Sigurd, I whispered. Was, Lance corrected. This email chain is evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud and harassment. But there's more. He pulled up Owen's LinkedIn. 3 days ago, he'd messaged Sigurd. Son, I know your mother has poisoned you against me, but I'm your father. I deserve a chance. Your grandparents agree. We could do great things together. The Harrison medical legacy combined with Blake innovation. Think about your future. Sigurd didn't tell me. Because Sigurd reported him for harassment. LinkedIn banned him. He also, Lance smiled, sent Owen's bankruptcy filing to Harrison Industries board. Turns out they don't like being associated with failed entrepreneurs who owe the IRS $2 million. They're still paying him? Were. The board voted yesterday to terminate all consultant contracts. Your father doesn't know yet. Sometimes karma needs a good lawyer to help it along. Lance unlocked Elena's safe with the combination she'd made me memorize. 07 to 23, 2005, the day Sigurd was born. She updated this every year, he said, pulling out the leather-bound document. But this provision never changed. He flipped to page 7, paragraph 4, highlighted in yellow. Should any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected my chosen daughter Olivia Harrison or her son Sigurd Harrison attempt to claim relationship or assets after achieving success or recognition, they shall be permanently barred from any inheritance, property, or financial benefit from my estate. She knew this would happen? She planned for it. Look. He clicked play on an iPad. Elena's face filled the screen, recorded just months before her death. If you're watching this, Elena said, her voice still strong despite the cancer, then Robert and Margaret Harrison have crawled out from whatever rock they've been hiding under. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. Yes, I know exactly who you are. I hired investigators the day I met Olivia. I know about the 10 minutes, the suitcase, the family portrait you turned face down. My throat tightened. Even dying, she'd protected us. You threw away a treasure, Elena continued. I found her. She became my daughter in every way that matters. Sigurd became my grandson. And you? You're nothing. Ghosts. Signatures on a paper that ensures you'll never hurt them again. The video Elena looked directly at the camera. Olivia, my darling, they'll come with money and promises. Don't believe them. You have everything, the restaurants, the investments, this house. $15 million, all in your name, protected in trust. They can't touch it. They can't touch you. Be free. The timestamp showed she'd recorded it the day before she died. This is the beautiful part, Lance said, pulling out another document. The original abandonment papers your parents signed. I'd seen copies before, but the original felt different, heavier, their signatures bold and clear, like they were signing a business deal. They didn't just kick you out, Lance explained. They legally emancipated you and simultaneously relinquished all parental rights. But here's what their lawyer apparently didn't explain. Or maybe they didn't care to understand. He pointed to Clause 6. This relinquishment extends in perpetuity to any offspring, born or unborn, of the aforementioned minor. In perpetuity? Forever. They can't claim grandparent rights because legally, Sigurd isn't their grandson. They made sure of that 20 years ago. But they're on TV saying, they're lying, or they never read what they signed. Either way, this document is legally binding and irreversible. They could have contested it within the first year, but after that, he smiled, ironclad. I thought about my father's Harvard law degree hanging in his office, my mother's insistence on reading every contract. They'd known. They'd wanted me gone so completely that they'd signed away their future too. There's one more thing, Lance said. If they continue harassment after being shown these documents, we can file for a restraining order. Criminal harassment charges. They could face jail time. They'd never risk that. Their reputation? Exactly. So we give them one chance to walk away quietly. If they don't take it, we go public with everything. At the gala? At the gala, 500 witnesses, media coverage, everything they care about, reputation, image, legacy, destroyed by their own signatures. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Elena really thought of everything. She loved you, Lance said simply. This was her way of proving it forever. The Springfield Memorial Annual Gala was in 3 days. 500 guests, full media coverage, and Sigurd giving the keynote about family, legacy, and healing. We invite them, I said, holding the pearl shimmer invitation. All 3 of them. Lance raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Elena left us the weapons. Time to use them. I wrote each invitation by hand. Dear Mother and Father, please join us at the Springfield Memorial Gala to receive your inheritance from the Elena Rossi estate. Formal documentation will be provided. Olivia. Dear Owen, your presence is requested regarding Sigurd's patrimony and your parental status. Legal clarification will be provided. Olivia Harrison Mitchell. They'll think they've won, Lance said, sealing the envelopes. Let them. Sigurd reviewed his speech one more time. You want me to mention Grandma Elena but not them? Mention your real grandmother, the one who loved you. And when they stand up to claim credit, that's when Lance presents the documents. We'd reserved a table front and center for them. Table 1, impossible to miss, impossible to leave without everyone noticing. The hospital board will be there, Lance noted. Harrison Industries investors, everyone they care about impressing. Good. I called the foundation coordinator. Yes, we're announcing the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers. 5 million initial funding, 10 medical school scholarships. Everything was in place. 20 years of pain transformed into purpose. What if they don't come? Sigurd asked. They'll come. Their egos won't let them miss it. Lance pulled up the RSVPs an hour later. All 3 had responded yes within minutes of receiving the invitations. They think they've won, he said. Perfect. The best defeats come when victory seems certain. The moment of truth is approaching. If you've ever had to stand up to those who should have protected you, comment strength below. I read every single comment and am deeply moved by this community supporting each other. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You need to see what happens when signatures from the past destroy futures built on lies. The gala is about to begin, and every camera in that room will capture the moment my parents learn that some choices can never be undone. Let's continue. The Springfield Memorial Ballroom glittered with old money and new hope. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids on every table, and my parents at table 1, holding court like royalty. My mother wore vintage Chanel, the suit she'd saved for special victories. My father kept checking his Patek Philippe, probably calculating when to make their grand gesture. Owen sat beside them, fidgeting in a rented tux that didn't quite fit. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Sigurd Harrison. My son walked to the podium in scrubs, not a tux, not a suit, but the uniform he'd earned saving lives. The audience murmured. My parents' smiles tightened. Good evening. I'm here to talk about family, Sigurd began. Not the family you're born into, but the family that chooses you when you need them most. My mother preened, assuming he meant them. 20 years ago, a 17-year-old girl was thrown out of her home for getting pregnant. She slept in parks. She ate from vending machines. She had nothing except the life growing inside her. The room went silent. My father's hand froze on his champagne glass. Then Elena Rossi found her. A widow with no obligation to help, no reason to care, except that she understood what family really meant. Elena became my grandmother. She gave my mother shelter, dignity, purpose. She gave me life. On the LED screen behind him, Elena's photo appeared, 20 feet tall, smiling, radiant. Everything I am, Sigurd continued, I owe to 2 women. My mother, Olivia Harrison Mitchell, who sacrificed everything for me. And my grandmother, Elena Rossi, who proved that love isn't about blood, it's about showing up. My parents were no longer smiling. Tonight, I'm announcing the Elena Rossi Foundation for Teen Mothers, Sigurd said, his voice carrying across 500 silent guests. $5 million in initial funding, housing, childcare, education, and hope for young mothers abandoned by their families. The screen changed. Elena's video message began playing. Hello, my dear ones. Elena's voice filled the ballroom. If you're watching this, then my grandson Sigurd is doing exactly what I knew he would, changing lives, healing hearts, being the man I always knew he'd become. My mother started to stand. My father grabbed her wrist, pulling her down. Family, Elena continued, isn't about DNA or last names or inheritance. It's about presence. When Olivia needed family most, where were the Harrisons? When Sigurd took his first steps, spoke his first words, performed his first surgery, where were they? The camera panned across the crowd. Every eye was on table one. I leave everything to my real family, Elena said. To Olivia, my daughter by choice. To Sigurd, my grandson by love. And to those who abandoned them, she looked directly into the camera. I leave you the truth about what you threw away. Sigurd returned to the podium. I want to thank my family for being here tonight. Mom, he looked at me. And Lance, who showed me what a father really is. My mother shot to her feet. We're your grandparents! We're your blood! The entire ballroom turned to stare. No, Sigurd said calmly into the microphone. You're strangers who share DNA. There's a difference. How dare you, my father started. Mr. Mitchell, Sigurd said. I believe you have some documents to present? Lance stood, folder in hand, walking toward the podium with the measured steps of coming justice. This is ridiculous! My father charged toward the stage, his face purple with rage. We are his grandparents! We have rights! Security moved forward, but Lance raised a hand. Let them come. My mother grabbed the microphone from a nearby table. This is our grandson. They've poisoned him against us. We made one mistake 20 years ago. One mistake? I stood, my voice carrying without amplification. You gave me 10 minutes to pack. You turned my portrait face down. You signed papers disowning me and my unborn child. The crowd gasped. Phones appeared, recording everything. That was different, my mother shrieked. You were a disgrace. Pregnant at 17. I was your daughter. Owen tried to slip toward the exit. 2 security guards blocked his path. Mr. Blake, Lance said into the podium microphone. Don't leave yet. This concerns you too. I'm not, Owen stammered. You're not what? The biological father who abandoned a pregnant 17-year-old? Or the consultant being paid by the Harrisons to manipulate their daughter? My father lunged for the podium. You can't prove… Actually, Lance smiled, clicking a remote. I can. The screen lit up with emails. The conspiracy laid bare in 40-foot letters for 500 witnesses to read. 10% of assets recovered, Lance read aloud. Push the right buttons about missed father-son moments. She always was emotional. My mother's Chanel suit couldn't hide her shaking. My father's Harvard pin couldn't restore his dignity. Owen looked like he might vomit on his rented shoes. Shall we discuss, Lance continued, the legal documents you signed 20 years ago? The ones that permanently severed all rights to Olivia and her children? The ballroom held its breath. Lance clicked again. The abandonment document filled the screen, every word magnified, every signature clear as day. October 15th, 2004, he read. We, Robert and Margaret Harrison, hereby relinquish all parental rights and responsibilities to Olivia Harrison and any children born or unborn. The document zoomed in on their signatures, bold, deliberate, undeniable. This extends in perpetuity, Lance continued, forever, irreversible. You didn't just disown your pregnant daughter, you legally disowned every generation that would come from her. We didn't know, my mother started. You didn't know? Lance pulled up another document. Mr. Harrison, you have a Harvard law degree. You knew exactly what you were signing. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But that's not all, Lance said. Let's discuss what happens when you abandon someone, then try to claim their inheritance. The crowd leaned forward. Even the waitstaff had stopped to watch. 20 years ago, you threw Olivia away. Elena Rossi found her, loved her, raised her grandson as her own, and when Elena died, she left very specific instructions about blood relatives who abandoned family. That money should be ours, my father shouted. We're the biological grandparents who signed away all rights. Look at the screen, Mr. Harrison. Look at your signature. That's your handwriting saying Sigurd doesn't exist to you. Channel 7's camera captured everything. Jennifer Chen held her microphone toward the stage, broadcasting live. Every person in this room, Lance said, every camera, every phone, they're all witnessing the truth. You abandoned a pregnant teenager, you signed away your grandchild, and now you want to profit from his success? The disgust in the room was palpable. People actually turned their backs on table 1. Now, Lance said, let's discuss Elena Rossi's will. The screen changed to the official probate documents, complete with gold seals and notarizations. Article 7, Section 4. Any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or rejected Olivia Harrison or Sigurd Harrison shall be permanently excluded from all inheritance, property, or financial benefit from this estate. She can't do that, my mother screamed. She can, and she did. The estate is worth $15 million. The restaurants, the properties, the investments, all of it goes to Olivia and Sigurd. You, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, receive nothing. But more importantly, Lance clicked again, showing a video timestamp, Elena left you a personal message. Elena appeared on screen again, but this was different footage. She was looking directly at the camera, directly at my parents. Robert and Margaret Harrison, Elena's voice rang out. I know you're watching this, probably in a room full of people you're trying to impress. Good. Let them all hear this. You are the worst kind of cowards. You threw away a treasure because you feared judgment. I found that treasure. I polished it. I helped it shine. My mother collapsed into her chair. You had 10 minutes to pack your daughter's life, so I'm giving you the same. 10 minutes to leave this gala, leave this city, and leave Olivia and Sigurd alone forever, starting now. Lance looked at his watch. That's 8:47 p.m. At 8:57, if you're still here, I file the restraining orders, the criminal harassment charges, everything. The ballroom was silent, except for the ticking of the massive clock on the wall. 9 minutes, Lance announced. My parents looked at each other, then at the exits, then at the hundreds of phones recording their humiliation. Mr. Blake, Lance turned to Owen, who was trying to shrink into his rented tux. Let's discuss your consulting agreement. The emails returned to the screen. Lance read each one slowly, letting the words sink in. Olivia always was emotional. Push the right buttons. 500,000 upfront seems reasonable for my involvement. That's taken out of context, Owen stammered. Is it? Let's see the context. Lance clicked through the entire chain. You approached the Harrisons. You offered to manipulate the mother of your child for money. You called your son an asset to be recovered. Sigurd stepped back to the microphone. Mr. Blake, I want you to know something. I've known who you were since I was 15. I looked you up. I found your Stanford graduation photos, your wedding announcement, the birth announcements for your other children, the ones you didn't abandon. Owen's face went white. I watched you build your life while my mother built hers alone. I saw your startup announcements, your Forbes mentions, your perfect family Christmas cards, and I felt nothing. You know why? Because Lance Mitchell taught me to play catch. Lance came to every surgery observation. Lance is my father in every way that matters. But I'm your biological. You're a sperm donor who's now bankrupt and desperate enough to sell access to the son you never wanted. The IRS already knows about your bankruptcy fraud, by the way. We forwarded them your emails about hiding assets. Someone in the crowd laughed. Then another. Soon, Owen was surrounded by the sound of derision from people who'd once respected the Blake name. 8 minutes remaining, Lance announced. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Blake, I suggest you leave. Now. My father stood, trying to salvage dignity from disaster. This isn't over. We'll sue. We'll. The ballroom doors opened. A process server walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Robert Harrison? Margaret Harrison? Owen Blake? The server held up official documents. You're being served with emergency restraining orders. He handed them each a packet while 500 people watched. These are temporary orders, effective immediately. You are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Olivia Mitchell, Sigurd Harrison, or Lance Mitchell. No contact through any medium, no calls, texts, emails, or third-party messages. The hearing for permanent orders is in 2 weeks. You planned this, my mother hissed at me. No, I said, standing. You planned this 20 years ago when you signed those papers. I'm just finishing what you started. The officer stepped forward. Folks, you need to leave the premises now, or you're violating the order. This is assault, my father shouted. This is consequence, the officer said calmly. Something I understand you're not familiar with. You have 5 minutes before we arrest you for violation. My mother grabbed her Hermes bag like a life preserver. You'll regret this, Olivia. The only thing I regret, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, is spending 17 years thinking I needed your love. They walked toward the exit, Owen trailing behind them. At the door, my father turned one last time. That boy is our blood. Blood, Sigurd called out. You bled my mother dry and left her for dead. Elena gave her a transfusion of real love. That's the only blood that matters here. The doors closed behind them. The entire ballroom erupted in applause. The applause died down as Sigurd returned to the podium, this time with me beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, let me tell you what we're really here to celebrate. The screen showed a mock-up of a building, the Elena Rossi Center for Young Mothers. $5 million in initial funding, 10 full medical school scholarships for children of teen mothers, housing for 20 families at a time, childcare during classes, job training, everything my mother needed 20 years ago and found in one extraordinary woman. I took the microphone. Every young mother who comes to us will get what I got from Elena. Not judgment, but support. Not shame, but dignity. Not abandonment, but family. The first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Sigurd announced. Maria Santos, 17, graduating valedictorian while raising her daughter. Maria, would you stand? A young woman rose, holding a baby, tears streaming down her face. The ovation was thunderous. Maria will attend Harvard pre-med this fall, full ride, with on-site childcare, I said, because that's what Elena would have done. Lance joined us on stage. We're also announcing that Harrison Industries Board has voted to redirect their annual charitable giving. The $12 million they donated to this hospital over the years? It's being matched by an anonymous donor for the Elena Foundation. I knew that anonymous donor. It was the combined savings of every family Elena had helped over the years, paying it forward. In 1 year, Sigurd said, we'll have helped 50 young mothers. In 10 years, 500. In 20 years, when some other scared 17-year-old gets pregnant, she won't sleep in a park, she'll call us. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the sweetest sound was the silence from table 1, now empty, forever. 3 weeks later, Lance showed me the business news. Harrison Industries stock dropped 30%, he said. The board called an emergency meeting. Your father was voted out as CEO. The scandal had spread beyond Springfield. Family values hypocrites ran in the Wall Street Journal. The 10-minute parents trended on social media for days. Someone leaked the security footage of them being escorted out. It had 12 million views. They're selling the house, Lance continued, pulling up the real estate listing. The Westfield mansion, listed far below market value. They need the cash for legal fees. Their lawyer had tried to contest the restraining orders. The judge not only upheld them but made them permanent after seeing the evidence. What about Owen? Worse. His ex-wife's lawyer subpoenaed our emails. Turns out hiding money from bankruptcy court while owing $200,000 in child support is a federal crime. He's facing 3 years. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just nothing. They moved to Arizona, Lance added. Scottsdale. Your mother's sister took them in. They're living in her guest house. From a 7-bedroom mansion to a guest house. From society galas to exile. The best part? Lance smiled. Remember their church? The one where your father was an elder? They were asked to find a new place to worship. Apparently, abandoning pregnant teenagers doesn't align with their values. Every institution they'd valued more than me had rejected them. Are you okay? Lance asked. I'm free, I said. For the first time in 20 years, I'm completely free. That night at dinner, Sigurd said, the foundation received a donation today. Anonymous, $50,000. We all knew who it wasn't from. 6 months later, we gathered for our weekly dinner. The tradition Elena started, and we'd never stopped. Sigurd carved the roast, using the technique Elena taught him when he was 12. So I saved 3 lives this week, he said casually, like he was discussing the weather. Show off, Lance teased, pouring wine from Elena's collection. The youngest was 4 months old, Sigurd continued. Her mother was 17. She reminded me of someone. He looked at me with those eyes that still saw wonder in the world, despite everything. I told her about the foundation. She cried, Mom, said she'd been sleeping in her car for a week. Not anymore, I said. She moves into the center tomorrow. This was our family. No DNA tests required. No blood certificates needed. Just presence, consistency, and choice. Elena's portrait hung where the TV used to be. We'd rather look at her than any screen. Fresh orchids sat beneath it, replaced weekly. Her favorite. I'm getting married next month, I announced. Lance nearly dropped his wine. You're supposed to let me propose first. Elena always said I should speak up for what I want. I pulled out the ring I'd bought him. So Lance Mitchell, will you make this official? Sigurd laughed, really laughed, the way he did as a child. Mom, you just proposed at dinner over pot roast. Elena would approve, Lance said, sliding the ring on. Yes, absolutely yes. We toasted with Elena's Waterford crystal, the ones she saved for celebrations. In the candlelight, I could almost see her smiling. This was family. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. Chosen. Permanent. And somewhere in Arizona, in a guest house, 2 strangers I once called parents were learning what I'd known for 20 years. Some choices can't be undone, but better choices, those can be made every single day. Thank you for staying with my story. If you've ever had to choose between blood and happiness, remember this. Real family shows up when the world walks away. Like and subscribe if this story reminded you that justice exists, even when it takes 20 years. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that they deserve unconditional love. Comment family if you believe in chosen families, not forced ones. And if you're that scared 17-year-old somewhere, sleeping in your car or on a friend's couch, you're not alone. There's help. There's hope. There's a future waiting for you.